What's going on, everybody? Hey, look where we are. We are not in the video podcast room at the State Champs Sports Network studios. We are in the rafters at Ford Field, and we have just taken in all the football state finals that happened on Friday. And so we're here to talk about it. I'm Lorne Plant. Matt Mowery is here. Scott Burnstein is here. Of course, all the usual suspects. Kevin Trzynski, David Bodine is monitoring the comments that you guys may have on what took place this morning, this afternoon, and this evening. Yikes, what took place this evening here locally.
A lot of hustle and flow down here at Ford Field.
No doubt.
I think Terrence Howard would be very proud of the efforts we saw down here, making a reference to the movie Hustle and Flow.
Yes, of course.
The youngsters don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, I bet they do, actually. It's the oldsters who don't.
But
Side point to you.
just a lot of swagger out here from some major league playmakers in all these games, guys that showed up big when the bright lights were shining the brightest.
No doubt about it, and we're going to talk about all of it, and I just want to give a quick shout-out to our sponsors. Again, this is our final show of the year, so this is number 15 for us, so we've been grinding here on Friday nights. Again, it's 10:30 at night here. Hopefully you enjoy this show. We've enjoyed doing it this year. Whether we do it again next year will be one of those things time will tell, but we have enjoyed doing it. It's great being live. Again, people still milling around here, again, on the 7th floor, the press box area at Ford Field. So big shout out to our sponsors, Lawrence Technological University, the Michigan High School Athletic Association, the Detroit Athletic Club, and of course, Hungry Howie's. We've got our Final Fours out there for the Anvil and Mr. Football races. We'll be announcing the winners here very soon. In the next couple of days, we'll have our champions, and you'll be able to check that out. But we're here, and again, we're going to go commercial free so we can just kind of get through it and kind of hammer out what took place today. Let's start with the morning matchup, and it was one of those real interesting, I believe we all, at least at this table, had Reading, coming in, looking really good and should win the state championship. They did do that. Final score was 33-6. Although Beale City, played them tough, they still were not able to come out on the winning side. And I will have to say, the one thing that really stood out to me is those twins.
The Afholters.
Yes, exactly.
They combined for two of them combined for 20 tackles.
They look identical. It's like 55 and 44, and they're like sophomores, I believe. Oh, are they seniors? Okay, well, somebody told me that. Okay, so you might be right. Why don't you pull that closer so we can hear you, sir? Okay, I was going to say if they're sophomores, my gosh. But anyway.
They played with some reckless abandon.
They did. Those guys could definitely play at the next level, and it was just really just striking.
Yeah, talk about motor. I mean, they were the epitome of what a motor, what you want from a defensive player, just flying around the ball.
Well, Bennett Afholter at 260 pounds is the middle linebacker for Reading, and
right.
he was going downhill all game long, and it was really hard for Beale City to establish anything inside, especially with their fullback. I mean, that's kind of their bread and butter, has been for years and years and years and years, and it was obviously for a Beale City team that had a couple of down seasons. That's a program that's got more playoff appearances than any other program in the state of Michigan.
Right.
And so it's a very prideful program, and now they're kind of back on track. So I think that was a nice step for them, but certainly they ran into a buzzsaw in Reading. And it was a Reading team that kind of wanted to prove that last year wasn't a fluke because that was their first title ever.
Back to back.
And this group of seniors kind of wanted to prove that they didn't take a backseat to last year's seniors, so they kind of wanted to leave their own stamp on the legacy that they've left at Reading, and it's been an impressive 2-year run for that program.
Absolutely. They gained about 270 yards as a team, but spread it out, several guys with over 60 yards rushing.
Yeah, Elijah Strine, give credit to Beale City. They contained him. I mean, he still had about 73 yards rushing,
12 carries,
and he got in the end zone. But he wasn't the dominating force that he's been in some games leading up to this. But it's like if you take away their number one option, and then you have all these other guys.
Two option,
so it's like they still didn't have any answers. They gave up 33 points.
Yeah, there really wasn't any dominating numbers that come out of this game. It was just a very workmanlike effort by Reading to get it done. And again, if it wasn't the 56-yard pass that Beal City had for the touchdown, which was really the big fireworks, although they did have a 40-yard pass, touchdown pass that Reading did, right at the end of the half. 29 seconds left in the half. That really changed the game, 14-6 there. And then Reading went on to score 3 touchdowns. Elijah Strine with a 9-yard run in the second half. In the third quarter, about late in the third, Hunter Mickard with a 28-yard run. That made it 26-6. And then it was Matthew Stewart, who, if you want to call it garbage time, 13 seconds left of the game, ran another one in.
Well, and I believe he was filling in for Strine, who had kind of gotten nicked up a little bit on one of those short conversions. It looked like he pulled a hamstring, pulled something. He was on the sidelines, kind of getting his leg tended to. So that's part of the reason that he was contained a little bit more, because he missed a little bit of time. But your backup comes right in and scores. Yeah,
and I'm sure for Matt Stewart, it was single carry in the game. It's probably one of those guys. Let's give him an opportunity, give him a chance.
Moment he'll never forget.
Right,
absolutely.
And he'll have a tape of it or video of it or streaming.
He won't have State Champs video because our man Chuck was actually shooting the sideline there because we didn't think they were going to play with 13 seconds left, that they were going to take a knee, and they scored the touchdown. So he
show the kiddies.
Yeah, exactly. It's on the Fox Sports broadcast, so he does have it forever and ever. So Reading takes care of business again. Both teams came in with 12-and-run records.
Can I throw in
go
one
for it, yes.
just quick campaigning?
Please.
I'm going to campaign.
Please.
I would really like the MHSAA to put the state finals library online. I think it would be very valuable for the whole state. So I just want to throw my hat in the ring of telling everyone of the MHSAA that I would love to be able to just pull up on my phone or go on YouTube on my desktop and be able to watch all the great action that's come through the state finals over the last 40 years. And I think that would be really cool for someone like a Matthew Stewart, who maybe he's in college in a couple of years and he wants to show his buddies at his dorm room, hey, look at this touchdown I scored.
Certainly, if they had a portal that had access, for a fee, from a certain date. I mean, I believe they should make some things available, within a certain amount of period of time. But if you're going way back, then I think that'd be for us at State Champs. That would be extremely valuable because we love going back and talking about moments in time, and that would be very cool because they have an extensive library. I mean, when we are doing our 25 and 25 shows or our legend shows, and we're like, hey, Tyrone Wheatley, in the state finals, whatever, and they're like, yeah, here you go, full DVD copy, and usually it looks pretty good too. So, that would be a very welcome addition if they would do that. We will petition our partners with the MHSA.
I know there's some logistic issues. I've talked to some of them over the years about it. I know there's some logistical licensing and stuff, but
maybe
I'd be a big fan if they did that.
I would imagine
I'm a big
they
fan
would
of the
have
MHSA
all the
in
licensing
general.
on that. I would think.
I think some of it has to do with who was carrying the game at the time.
Oh, the network.
Because I don't know if whatever.
Yeah, interesting.
I digress.
Yeah, it's okay. It is fine. Let's talk about what will be the State Champs main event on Sunday's show on Fox Sports Detroit.
Everything was coming up roses.
And that was the Division II state championship game between Muskegon Mona Shores and Detroit Martin Luther King. So certainly coming into the game, I mean, I just watched King walk on the field, and I'm like, these guys look ready to go. They look possessed. And then I took a look over at Mona Shores sidelines, and I was really surprised to say, man, I'm looking at their line, and they are beefy. And those boys look ready to play.
But this is a credit to Mona Shores. I just said this before we went live. I don't know how anyone could have picked Mona Shores in this game, considering they had their backup quarterback.
Right.
Now, the backup quarterback, Brady Rose, foreshadowed what he was going to do today in the semifinals when he came in and stepped in for Caden Broersma, who took Mona Shores to the state finals last year.
Yeah, pretty much for an entire half, I believe he had to play.
And he had to play at the start of the season, too, because Broersma didn't start the season on time. He had, I believe, a wrist issue. Nice. So I think
this
played in the first couple of games at least.
So this is a running back or a slot back.
Yeah,
who stepped in.
He's a slot receiver.
You want to talk about not missing a beat. I mean, he was outstanding these last 2 weeks, and just really said, "Get on my back, guys. I'm not going to let the fact that our quarterback went down derail this run to a state championship."
And Matt Kozak said that the playbook did not change for them.
Yeah, that was interesting.
They actually ran the quarterback more than they might have with Caden, who probably has a little bigger arm than Rose does. But I find it amusing that every time either a teammate or a coach describes he's diminutive. He's
Yes.
not the tallest person. I am not the tallest person. But every time they describe his height, it gets shorter every time.
Yeah.
He's down to about 5'1" now.
He said
every time they
4'11"
talk to-
at one
4'11"
point
is the
in the
press
press
conference.
conference,
Yeah.
yeah.
But his exploits just get bigger every week. And
He ran
just
for almost 100, threw for 125. I mean,
picked off a pass.
Yeah.
He sure did, and that was a key
It was.
interception.
It
It
was.
was.
he was marvelous.
Mona Shores wins 35-26, and we're talking about Brady Rose, 3 touchdowns today and an interception for Muskegon Mona Shores. Just one of those, and he's only a junior, so he's going to be back. And but yes, again, a kid who's not big, has a nose. I mean, again, great line to run through. Got some good holes, but again, he just finds that crease, finds that seam. They had a lot of fourth and ones or third, short distances, and they were able to.
He really answered a question for me, and my question was, after they beat Walled Lake Western, how did you guys give up 59 points to a backup quarterback? And then I got to see him live today, and I was like, okay, this guy is the real deal, Holyfield, and it's not just a normal backup. This is a guy that can, ignite. Is a lit fuse back there. Can ignite, and he ignited that offense for the last 2 weeks.
Well, and the King defense just could not get the key stop that it
No.
needed at any point in time. And Mona Shores took the opening drive, drove down the field,
Yep.
scored, and it took almost 6 minutes off the clock.
Exactly.
Half a quarter. And then they've got that 8:40 drive late in the game to just absolutely
the final
kill the
drive.
clock.
Yeah.
And at no point did it seem like King could get momentum because they could never get a stop. And the game plan was a little bit similar to the one that Brighton used to beat Belleville last week, where you just play a little keep away.
Yeah.
You keep the ball, you just keep methodically. And what you do is the longer you have the ball, the more pressure you put on that opposing offense. Try to make something happen as soon as they get the ball back. And sometimes that's where you see mistakes come in.
And compliments to the secondary. They held the number one prospect in terms of projecting at the college level. The number one prospect for this whole 2 days is Rashawn Williams in terms of where they're ranked by the scouts. And they held Rashawn Williams, who's an Indiana commit, to only 3 catches, 50 yards.
And they were all in the first half.
Yeah.
Still Penny Boone weather, though.
Yes, it
Penny
was
Boone,
definitely
man.
Penny Boone
I
weather.
mean, I'm not trying. No disrespect to Maryland, but I hope a higher level of Big Ten program comes in on him before signing day, because you want to talk about beast mode 24/7.
Yes.
And he's just made to run in the Big Ten.
And he gets stronger throughout the
Yeah.
game.
200 yards,
He
another
was carrying sailors.
Yeah.
There were times where he was stopped at the line of scrimmage in the hole, dead to rights.
Yeah.
And then 3 yards later, you see kind of that churn of bodies, and then he would pop out the other side of it a little bit. And 6-7 yards when he should have gotten 0.
21 carries, 198 yards, 3 touchdowns.
He's a
Had a
workhorse.
66 yard touchdown run, and really showing some speed there. He got away from it.
Yeah, and that was the high water mark. He actually ran away from Brady Rose on
Yeah.
that play.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the high water mark of their momentum, kind
Yes.
of. And if they could have gotten a stop, and if they could have made a point after touchdown at some point in the
Oh,
game.
my goodness.
That's what made it turn into a 2-score game when Shore scored again, was because they kept missing on the
Conversions,
PATs,
yeah.
and they couldn't get the 2-point conversions
No.
to make up for that. So they were kind of chasing points all game long, and and then it made it a 2-score game when Shore scored again. So they would have, even if King would have held onto the ball and scored
Yep.
on that, they would have had to kick the onside, do
Yep.
an onside kick,
Yep.
and then get another score to even tie it up.
Give a shout out also to the Fab Frosh DJ Moore. Even though he had 2 picks, he still played a pretty good game.
He did.
Threw for like 215, was 15 of 22, so his completion percentage was up there.
Yep.
And believe me, the future is so bright under center for King these
It
next
is.
3 years with what DJ Moore is going to bring to the table. And we're going to just be able to take it all in these next 3 years, and just because I think he really will be one of the true great quarterbacks to ever come out of the PSL.
Yeah, I would have thought if you would have told me he was going to be held to 1 touchdown passing, I would have been very surprised, considering that, again, this was a team coming in where they had 3 guys with at least 30 catches each this season. So, credit Mona Shore's secondary,
Yep.
led by Penny Boone, led by Brady Rose and what they were able to do. And again, just a great game plan. It was really great hearing Coach after the game just kind of talk about, where this team has come from, how they've, how they talked about that 53-0 loss to Muskegon in Week 7. Really just woke them up to the fact that if they're going to do something, they're going to have to rally together. They're going to have to do it together. They're going to have to believe in each other. And he said when I interviewed him afterwards, he's like, heck. I said, what are you going to think about this team 10 years from now? And he said, hey, if they tell me that I'm going to be an astronaut or I'm going to be president of the United States, you'd be like, all right, yeah. I believe that.
Brady Rose, I kind of missed this when I was looking through the stats. Yeah, he had the pick and he had the great offense. He led the team in tackles. He had 11 tackles.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Man, 24-karat magic at Ford Field for
Sold
Brady
some
Rose.
popcorn at halftime.
He was very thorny.
That is
for Detroit King.
And out of those 10 tackles, 7 of them were solo jobs.
Yes, exactly.
Great game.
And
it's fabulous.
Coming in, I had forgot that Mona Shores had never won a state championship, and considering it just seems like they've
been here a couple, the last half dozen years. And
I just had in my mind, I was like, weren't they here in the 2000s? I had in my mind that they had gotten here. They hadn't, but it seemed like they had because they've been such a quality program for so many years. Obviously, they run into a buzzsaw, the district to regionals, whatever year it may be. But good on them for getting here. Again, they've got a lot of talent, and again, a great program, and just a tremendous win over a really good Detroit MLK team that seemed ready to play. And they went at it, and
they were defending state champs. They weren't the defending Division
Right.
II state champs, but they were the defending state champs. They've won 4 of the last 6.
Yes, I think so.
And
it's also a team that started 0-2 after replacing everybody from last year's team, including Mr. Football. I mean, they had to replace a lot, and so I don't think it was a huge shock to anyone when they came slowly out of the gate this year, and then obviously they picked up momentum. And I think the way their season went versus the way Mona Shore's season went, I think people probably had a lot more confidence in King coming into this game, just because they hadn't given up 56 points in a game last week, and they hadn't given up 43, I believe it was, to Muskegon. So I think people doubted Mona Shores, and rightfully so, given the the results of the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, King with state titles 15, 16, both in Division II, and then a title in 18 in Division III. So
3 out of the last
5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would have been 4 if they would have pulled that one off today. But Ty Spencer was very
magnanimous.
Yes, exactly, and gracious in defeat, and he knows that this was a team of his that was able to bounce back from difficulty in the beginning of the year, and was able to do a lot of great things. And again, like you said, he's got that quarterback for several more years that he can build his program on. The kids were obviously upset, but I think that they know right now in the city, King is the team that's going to represent moving forward, at least.
And I think next year with Cass Tech brings back a lot of guys.
Yeah.
So that should be a fun PSL race between those two next year. You'll be back, back to that point where I think both of them are legitimate state title contenders, and they'll have a clash of the Titans like we always expect.
Yeah, exactly. It's always great. It makes it better. So we'll see what happens. And Maple City, Glen Lake, and Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central got together. I'm almost positive I picked Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central. You probably have the picks. I would be really shocked if I picked Glen Lake.
I picked Glen Lake.
I picked Glen Lake too coming in just because they'd played so many tight games the last couple of weeks, and they had seen an offense similar to that. They'd seen T teams, and obviously St. Mary's was running on a higher level because they were averaging 400 rush yards a game, almost nothing through the air, but they were just absolutely clicking on all cylinders coming in, and quite frankly, Glen Lake did a very good job. Other than the fact that St. Mary's was able to possess the ball, they didn't rack up a ton of yardage. I think they ended up with 269 on the ground, which is good for any mortal team, but for them it's approaching half their average.
Right.
So it was not, and they just couldn't. See, after that first early Bergmoser touchdown, nobody could get anything going. There was just nobody getting any momentum. Glen Lake was stacking 4 guys inside, the guards to just force St. Mary's to go wide, and every once in a while they were able to convert those. I think they were 4 or 5 on 4th down conversions, though, which kind of was the turning point. And going for it on 4th and 2 from their own 33 in the fourth quarter was kind of one of those points where you kind of went, ooh, because that's a lot of faith you got to put in your defense, and a lot of faith you got to put in your offensive line, and nobody bobbling a ball, and nobody, because they had a couple of exchange issues throughout the game, and had a couple of fumbles that turned into turnovers, but it was one where Coach Kip said that they had a similar situation against Milan, and their one and only loss this season where they didn't go for it, and that's one of those things too where when you don't go for it, your team knows that. And your team kind of can feel that lack of faith. So that's one of those points where you kind of give your team that, the feeling that you trust them, that they're going to get that done. And they did. They got it done, and they were able to churn clock. They weren't able to, it was kind of between the 20s that a lot of that game was played, but it was a lot of churning clock, and again, that was one that kind of forced Glen Lake, once they got the ball, to try to speed things up and get things done, and that's when they started making mistakes.
Yeah, the time of possession, 31 minutes, 17 seconds for Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central, 16 minutes, 43 seconds for Maple City Glen Lake, but 7-0 finals. My God.
Even though Alex Morgan didn't end up getting in the end zone, he still had a really nice effort in the stat sheet. Ran for about 130 yards. He's a boss, a boss hog there back in the backfield, and he showed why he's such a premier playmaker. I
mean, credit to the St. Mary's the SMCC defense and
absolutely.
what they did today. They held them to total net rushing yards of 52 in the entire game. And we're talking about the state finals here. Reese Hazelton had 75 yards passing. He was 6 of 14, got sacked once. That was really all he did. They had about 75 total yards in passing. Punted 4 times. And again, the possession arrow favored Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central. They've been here before, and they get another state championship. So, again, that was one of those teams that, as we were doing rankings throughout the years, they were, of course,
they were chirping,
wanting to get in that 25,
right?
and we always had good reason as to, why we.
They made it in at the end of the season.
Exactly.
Yeah, they were there.
They were there. Exactly. Yep. I'm defending you, absolutely. But again, one of those teams that accelerated at the right time, and that was at the end of the year, and they got it done. And congratulations to them again.
It's like
keeping a team shut out on this stage is an impressive feat.
Playing your best football of the year, in the playoffs, it's like, in some ways, it feels like it was just August. But when it comes to football and traction and making a run, it's like it might as well have been a million years ago. It's like what's happening in October, November is what really matters.
So talk about playing your best football at the right time of the year at the state finals. How about Grand Rapids Catholic Central?
Symphony of synchronization. And I'm going to bestow a new nickname. We have Joey basketball over at Erie Mason.
Yes.
With Joey Lydell, the
That's
U of D
right.
commit. Well, we got our Joey football right now. Joey Silveri this guy was so dialed in today as, a 10th grader.
Yeah.
Almost 400 yards of total offense, 6 touchdowns, 4 throwing,
Yes.
2 on the ground. Just a mesmerizing performance. He was electric.
Yeah,
Last
15
play
of
of the first
22.
half, missed another one because he almost had Jace Williams for that 3rd touchdown right at the end of the first half. And you talked about, how nice it'll be to watch Dante Moore for the next 3 seasons.
Right.
Still going to get to watch Joey Silveri for 2 more seasons after this, and that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Especially because he's got Jace Williams to throw to for another season next year, and that's going to be an electric combination.
The real deal Holyfield there.
Yeah, Williams with 3 touchdowns.
Tying a finals record with, I believe he's going to share it with 9 other players. But
that's impressive.
Yes.
4 catches, 3 touchdowns. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's getting it done.
And the other
5
one set
minutes.
up a touchdown because
Right.
it was down to the 3. Yeah.
There you go.
5 minutes.
Silveri was just diming.
Yes.
Just sugar dimes.
Yes, no question about it. I got to see Grand Rapids Catholic Central in week 1, and that was against River Rouge. Ironically, they're both here this weekend. And it was an impressive win, and you could see that this team had the ingredients of just you talk about moxie and swagger. That's the way that these guys carry themselves. I think in each they expect to win, and obviously they did everything. Right out of the gate, leading 18-0 after the first quarter. You're setting the stage for greatness. What can you say about Country Day?
Well,
what happened?
First off, let's just mention that Grand Rapids CC put up 44 on DCD today.
Yes.
The most they've given up in a game
is
12.
Was 12 points. 12 points.
Yeah.
Jace Williams had that by the 8-minute mark of the first quarter.
I get it.
The ghosts of Ford Field past, unfortunately, are still haunting the Country Day program. They're 0-5 since the state finals moved here.
Second in a row they've lost to Grand Rapids.
That last game was 10-7.
Yeah, that was way closer.
They've lost their last.
But that was
five
another team. That last team that lost to that 10-7 game. Country Day had come in scoring a zillion points that year, and again only put up 7 here, put up nothing.
They just had trouble generating anything on either side of the ball. Coach McLean said, at the end of the game, it was a game of matchups, and we just didn't match up very well. One thing I'll say is I could tell that for Caleb Tiernan, who is the blue chip prospect for Country Day, he's got offers by Michigan State, Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Right.
Big lineman.
Yep.
He took this loss really hard.
Oh, I bet.
Like, he was crying, and you could tell how emotionally drained he was. But at the same time, I could kind of sense how this was fueling him for what next year is. Mm-hmm. And how now he's the leader. He's going to be the team captain next year. And I think that those tears of sorrow will turn into tears of joy next year for someone that is as dedicated as Caleb Tiernan is for the Country Day Yellow Jackets. And Dan McLean said it at the press conference, or the ad hoc press conference. He said, "I guarantee Country Day will be back, and I'm not worried, and I'm sure they will."
Net gain 18 yards rushing. When that is, you try it 26 times and you net gain 18, that's totally going to shut down your passing game, because now they know exactly what you're going to do. Alon Mitchell, 6 of 10, had 1 interception, 42 yards was it, 3 sacks. And he came in, I know he had injury issues early in the playoff run. I saw them when they were able to beat Harper Woods. But it looked like he was getting there. And obviously they had a good run.
Harper Woods was the first game they got tested.
Yeah.
So they weren't even tested to the district finals.
Right.
So, you can make too much of this, and sometimes maybe you don't make enough of it. But sometimes that regular season schedule, sometimes I would rather be, and this is the same for basketball, I'd rather be 7-2 with a really tough schedule than 9-0 with kind of, Cupcake City.
All right, so we've got 3 minutes left in this show, gentlemen, and what I want to have us do is I want us to talk about the games tomorrow, because we've already seen what's taken place today, and we've got some great games tomorrow. I believe we shall see. But the
1 and 3 should be awesome.
Well, and I'll tell you
7
what,
should be great.
the 7 game. I mean, we're talking about Pewaukee, Westphalia, Jackson, Lumen Christi, both teams undefeated, 2 of the most successful
legacy programs
over the past decade.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You have to
Yep.
put those 2 right at the top of the list. This is going to be a fantastic matchup. How do you see it playing out?
It's going to be whether or not Pewaukee, Westphalia can slow down Lumen Christi and not let Lumen Christi just chew yards and time off the clock.
Right.
If they can do that, if they can
Very
get it
much
a little
like
more up and
Mona
down.
Shores was doing
absolutely.
here tonight.
Yep. And that's the way Lumen Christi plays.
Yes, it
always.
is.
And they like to take the ball and shove it down your throat. And if they can slow that down, then it becomes a game that is very much winnable for them.
Absolutely.
I like Rouge's chances against Muskegon. I'm still going to pick Muskegon,
Yeah.
but I think Rouge can give them a run for their money.
Hey, I would have said that last year. I thought Muskegon was going to roll King, and King won.
And the D1
River Rouge
game-
is coming in with a lot of experience.
We were talking about before we went live. I
Yeah.
mean, no, whether you're talking about August, September, October, last week,
Yeah.
nobody
that's
would have
true.
predicted that Davison
very true.
And Brighton would be playing for the Division I state championship. So, credit to those guys.
Absolutely.
Well, I think they're both programs that are very much sleeping giants. That if you wake up the right echoes. You could get something rolling both places.
Yep. And Coach Lemon and Coach Weingard's just pressing all the right buttons, making all the right calls, just showing that they're true tacticians and motivators, and those kids are playing really hard for them.
And you talk about time of possession. If Brighton can do what they did against Belleville,
Yes.
that will keep Davison's offense off the field, and that will prove to be a winning formula.
Yep, and Davison
for
has,
them.
over the last couple of weeks, has ridden their running game and their defense a lot more than they did earlier in the season, and so that's going to be the key. Who can stop?
And that team's a lot more than Brendan Sullivan.
Oh, it is, absolutely.
You can check my
Yeah.
check statechampsnetwork.com for my blog. I did a thing about 6 other Davison Cardinals that you need to know about: Latrell Fordham, Caleb Smith.
Real quick, about 10, 15 seconds here. Lansing Catholic, Almont's first finals. Good on them for getting here. Lansing Catholic certainly no stranger to Fort Field.
Yeah, this is going to be one it's kind of a contrast in styles because Almont's going to want to pound the ball with their stable of running backs, and Lansing Catholic's going to want to spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, great games all day tomorrow. I really believe that's going to be the case. Make sure you check it out. And we want to thank you for joining us all season long here on Michigan Extra Point Live. It's been a blast. We thank our sponsors, the MHSA, Lawrence Technological University, Detroit Athletic Club, and, of course, Hungry Howie's. Go get a pie. Go celebrate. Football season is not over. We've got one more day, and we will be announcing our Anvil Award winners and our Mr. Football winners very, very soon over the next couple of days. So make sure you stay in touch with everything happening on State Champs. Again, for those of you who commented and all of that, we appreciate you very much. Hopefully you'll enjoy a great day of football tomorrow. We've got 2 more shows on TV for State Champs this Sunday, 9 a.m. Of course, all the football state finals. Then next week is our final show, and that will be our final television program, actually, before we go all digital. So State Champs the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, again, hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving holiday. We appreciate each and every one of you checking it out. For Matt, for Scott, I'm Lorne. For Kevin and David, we all say good night from Ford Field.